They, I don't know why. Yeah. Well, it's the icon that comes on with the video player. We do have a large TV for showing slides. So if you're accompanying the planetarium show with a slideshow, there you are. It's got internet cable behind and the HDMI. It's a little bright, so people have figured out that you got to like reduce the brightness of your slide. Yeah, black background. Go to usual things to read. The other things that we've got, we show a video, a movie. We have a collection of movies that are especially these little shorts that I like so much. The audio is back to stereo. That came with the upgraded equipment about a year ago.
I come from Hawaii, a chain of islands in the middle of the Pacific.
We've got a lot of the shorts that they're focused on saving the night skies, saving the culture, that kind of stories from the other cultures. We've got 5 or 6 that deal with Orion, the different stories that accompany Orion.
Across this deep ocean called the Mother Whale. Rise up right in the south and just
the only software per se scripting that can be done for Stellarium. So if you've got a show where you want to focus on different parts of the sky instead of hunting for them, script that in. And that works pretty good. I've got some. We'll do that. How long does it the monthly shows are now. And usually it's about 50-50 presentation and then a video, a movie like this. This is a 6-minute video. There's Orion as a cat's cradle. Sometimes we'll show these in the beginning while kids are settling down. It seems to be a good way to get everybody in their seats and settle down. And then, although sometimes the video portion of the show, the full half hour, we'll just show all the little shorts that we got. And say now the American Indian, this is the culture. Now the Greeks, now the ancient Indians.
Are there resources for free shows or shows?
Yes. Yes. Any full dome video that comes out of the circle, we can get to show. The projector now is good enough that it should be better than the 1K normal video quality. To buy a full dome show It's about a half an hour. The going rate seems to be. So there was only one that we got really interested in. And Don, the county head of this whole nature center, was pretty excited about it. But because of the price, we've never pursued it. Coming, either it is available now, or you can pay to stream it, and this computer is on the internet, so that's an opportunity. A lot of the, Brooke just found a new one. Especially the ESO, they offer quite a few. Some of the bigger planetariums offer free shows. There is a FDD org, full dome database, and there's a lot of movies listed. A lot of them are free, so we do. That's where most of our collections come from. I think we've got one that we paid for way back in the dark ages. That's Cowboy Astronomy, which is pretty good favorite.
So what age group show up for the fun?
If the mean of the age is over 15, we get thrown for a loop. We're really geared towards keeping the what are they, tweens or before tweens, occupied and engaged. The last show a couple of days ago, I looked around, there was like one 10-year-old in the crowd. So, what do we do now? So that's the answer.
Generally, the kids are really big, so ask questions.
There's usually one or two that will give you a run for your money. They know the stars and they know constellations. They know events that are going on. Here's a run. Kind of important for navigating because if you're down around the equator or within 20 or 30 degrees, it's pretty much an east-west constellation. Which constellation is in east-west? Orion. Okay. Why is about 20 degrees north latitude, right? Right. I think so. We're at 40. So it's a little bit south. So that shows the movies, how we show the movie. We've got some scripts. Chris and I were tag team pretty high. The Polynesian show is scripted. And then we had a show about Jupiter. Yeah, it does it. Moves around a little bit.
Al, can you turn the volume up so we can see how good it is?
Sure. This one doesn't have any volume when we get to it. But here's something. This is stellarium, and this is what happens if you zoom way in. I could zoom in a little more, and the moons are enhanced. And if you zoom in a little bit more, then they become. Yeah, we can bring the lights up. Look at that. That's actually one of the
features.
Midterm, long-term goals is to take better care of the dome starting to deteriorate. Dawn thinks she's on a 3 or 4 year program to get a new dome. Ash is the company provided most of the equipment, and they have the fiberglass that they want for a couple $1,000. All she's got is like
The right size.
the 20 foot.
That was the problem they had originally, was they built the building first and then they tried to find a dome that fit, or any that worked that.
Right. And if you remember, the old equipment was always a little out of focus. And I think what had happened is that the smallest standard size was about 22 feet. And this dome is 20.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
that was
They had a,
just enough to throw the focus off.
yeah, I think the projector they got at first, they couldn't use, they had to trade it off. And then they got one from a school, but it was a 22-foot dome. And so they, I don't know, they sold the dome probably, and then the projector they kept, but because this is a 20-foot dome, focus was.
If you might recognize the parking lot.
Yeah.
That was a great success with the county. Chris took a picture and got it into the format for Solarium. And boy, they're still beside themselves. The dome actually shows what you see if you step.
Oh, that's like backdrop.
It is, yeah. It's a landscape and stuff like so, yeah.
Obviously, how on you know, like, obviously, that you have what
We've got one film, and I can't remember if it's a 5-minute or 20-minute film that shows the time lapse, like the 3-year time lapse, showing the stars whipping around Saturday. Oh, is that what you're talking about?
well, I mean, ton of
Yeah, the movies we have are somewhat dated. The newer ones, you know, like the ones that we found from ESO are newer. We got one by Whoopi Goldberg. It's a little dated. Cousins Collisions with Robert Redford. It's a little dated, but I think Jack still uses that in conjunction with his.
Yeah, yeah. They got the DVD.
We do too, Skip.
We've got for the butterfly event that'll be coming up the middle or end of the summer. We've got a flat version of the video that has the butterflies all around you. Now I can't find anywhere a dome version, but it was shot for a dome. So showing the flat version on the dome doesn't make it cute, you know, because the edges don't do the warping in and out as it can. So that was a kind of a success. I got another Tom Cruise. He did a IMAX on the space station. Same kind of thing, funded by NASA, made available. I can't find the dome version. If I get interested or somebody wants to take a look at the space station, you can see how that looks. That's all. The short to mid to do So we showed the Jupiter moons. Here's another script that you might see some use for. This one takes a snapshot every sidereal day. Sidereal day, so the stars don't move. And the little red X's are Jupiter's position, I think every couple days. And the point here is to show the retrograde. There's Jupiter. And you see the stars are not moving from day to day. The Jupiter is, I think, the movement from the street. So if you, this is based on a script that is provided by Stellarium that shows the Analema. But it shows the sun position every day for you. They can kind of offset too. So now we're in retrograde. And now, yeah. And it also gets daylight. So I could turn the atmosphere off and then you could see Jupiter. You can see there's the dome of the observatory. Where are we on time?
About 5 more minutes.
What was that?
About 5 more minutes. Well, good.
So most of these scripts are your free ones, right?
Script. Videos, we found quite a few. There is a this is from Brooks. I know Jeff was looking for something that might flip from star to star. And this one. So her show was showing objects that are different time. The light left for certain ages of kids.
They're somebody good at putting together stuff.
Teaching. Teaching is, boy, I don't know about that. I was thinking more like, give me your idea and we'll see what we can come up with. I think that's right.
Right, as opposed to
So Chris and I, between the two of us, could probably get your ideas to behave fairly well.
But nothing stops you from going in and poking around.
No, yeah, I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Or if you get to a feature in a script that you think is really close to what you want, and you just can't make sense out of it, yeah, then Chris and I can probably wade through that. Yeah, the documentation is challenging. It is very challenging. It assumes that you're very familiar with scripting language, which I am not. Chris, maybe it's not quite.
Al, this thing, 5.96 kids here ages, is that based on like a universe being 13.8 billion years, and then this is the age at which
No, it's the light years away.
light years away.
Let's see how it's flipping from star to star.
Why kids ages? What is that?
Because we have so many kids that come to the shows. I was doing a show about time travel. And we talked about like travels. And so what you actually see is not so if you are 6 years old, when you were born, when you were start.
Light left it.
Yes.
But see now, she's also got, when the Crab Nebula, it's like 200 to 300. So there's Spica is 250 years. There's the light left Spica while the United States is being found. It's kind of,
You ain't that old.
Galaxy.
No, that's,
Okay, so Green Nebula was
727.
Probably want to wrap it up now.
Great Spirit. Okay, more questions, more ideas.
And he's also seeking volunteers to do shows.
Always looking for volunteers to do. He's actually on the council. He's the.
Is the planetarium used for school shows also, or just for public shows on weekends?
We use it in county. We'll have field trips and birthday parties. The naturalist is pretty good at looking around and showing constellations.
So county staff will do it for
County
school,
staff.
and because they have certain curriculum that they have to meet, and then we do it on demand from them. And as part of our agreement to use the land with the observatory on it, we provide the monthly show.
And the other customers, yeah, when they approach, depending on who they approach and who's talking to who at that moment, either we'll host the show or the county hosts the show. So the last one, the county said he hosted.
We're showing on the 7th.
Okay, we
All right, and I'm around. Brooke's around. Brooke's in here all the time. Let us know. My question.
we are going back to the auditorium in some sense of normalcy. And everybody's coming from
Did you see you go here in Carnival or the fair? Oh. You're going to use. The Carnival.
everybody's coming back from a planetarium. We were given a little demo to help encourage volunteership,
Yeah, well. Yeah.
and they are coming back into the room. You can kind of see. We tried to do a demo for the first half hour.
Looks like you got email here, but it has, you can still have, you'll get the picture, that will leak. You may not be able to come here, because I know still have convictions and.
Need to set this up.
I'm getting ready to jump right in, right, so I'm getting ready to email it back, but, we can't do the program on tonight, I think we're all criminals. Do you know I'm dating 29-year-olds? No. There's not three.
We're just getting our act together, and
Okay.
Brad, I'm so glad that you're speaking with us again. I've been following you on Facebook ever since you spoke last time. So,
Oh, nice. Oh, hello.
yeah, so I'm glad you're back. Thanks.
No worries.
Everybody can find a seat. And where's Kurt? Kurt is back there. Okay. Okay, while Kurt's getting ready to do our intros for our speaker, for everybody who came in before we took our field trip to the planetarium, just one more shameless plug that we are looking for volunteers to sign up for a month to come and speak on your favorite topic in there. Also, when we take our break after our speaker, we have the door prize drawings, and we, of course, are always accepting goodies for future drawings. Refreshments in the back, and I'm going to turn it over to Kurt, who will introduce our speaker.
Yeah, so there's Brian.
And I'm going
Hello,
to
everybody.
get this dinosaur out of the way.
Tonight, our speaker is Brad Tucker, who is an astrophysicist, cosmologist, and associate professor at the Research School of Astronomy and Astrophysics of the Mount Stromlo Observatory and the National Center for the Public Awareness of Science at the Australian National University in Canberra. Is that right? You're in Canberra?
Yeah, Canberra. Yeah.
Now, the observatory was formally founded in 1924, and it's just celebrated its 100th year as an organization. From solar observations, measurements of the size of the universe, exoplanets, to the discovery of dark energy and more, Mount Stromlo Observatory has been at the forefront of astronomical discoveries and a legacy in areas that most people do not know about. So tonight's talk is going to explore the history of Mount Stromlo Observatory and what the future has in store, such as shaping the future of astronomy and Canberra, and how it is becoming a test case for future combating of light pollution. So glad to have you back, Brad.
Yep. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Joining from the other side of the world. Sorry, tomorrow doesn't get much better, just a heads up. So no, it's great to come. Sorry, it's from afar. But yeah, as we were just hearing, we have just celebrated our 100th anniversary, and I think there's a great chance to talk a little bit about what's happening, what we're doing, and across. And some of it's happened quite relevantly or recently. Some of it's a little bit longer work. So let me just share my screen. And in Australia here, we all are on different lands, originally with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. And in Canberra, I'm on the traditional lands of what's called the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. And and this is actually a cool legacy that we build off of in Australia, is that there are oral traditions of astronomy that have been going on for thousands of years. And we're starting to incorporate this more and more into our work and into our research. And I just wanted to highlight, because there's a couple of really cool things that most people don't know about, right? If I say, what do we know about Stonehenge? I'd expect most people to know Stonehenge, probably even visited it. I haven't yet. But Australia actually has its own Stonehenge called Wurdi and Wurdi is this rock formation in Victoria, so where Melbourne is, which will host its first NFL game actually in September, and that will be an interesting experience. But these rocks that have been formed, astronomers and indigenous knowledge holders have mapped the positions of these rocks, and what they notice is that it traces sunset in the middle of summer, the middle of winter, and lies perfectly along the equinox. So what's cool about it, right? Stonehenge is only aligned to work one time a year. This works 4 times a year. Stonehenge, I think, is estimated to be 6 or so thousand years old. This is 11,000 years old based on the soil underneath the rocks. So this is actually an object older than Stonehenge, does more than Stonehenge, and is in Australia. And so there's actually a lot of history about this. There's a famous story from the Torres Strait. So that's kind of the northern coast of Australia near Indonesia. And it's a story about two fishermen brothers. And the story goes that these two fishermen brothers were following a full moon, and it happened to monsoon season started, and a storm washed them up onto the reef. And in order to guide the brother back, he sacrificed himself, and then he put himself as a star to be remembered in the sky. And so he was only temporarily there as a remembrance to happen and also to help his brother get back to shore. And they record that this happened in the monsoon season, around a full month, and that the position in the sky is near one of the Torres Strait constellations. Well, in the year 393, Chinese astronomers have found what we believe is the first recorded supernova. And that supernova, recorded by Chinese astronomers in 393, this is one of the things that I do, was near the Chinese asterism of Wei. So that's kind of near the two tail stars of Scorpio. And the position recorded by Chinese astronomers is a quarter of a degree away from the position recorded by the people in the Torres Strait. And they have marked that it happened, which would have happened in February, which is monsoon season in the Torres Strait. And now astronomers, we've confirmed with telescopes that there was a supernova remnant of a red supergiant, a type 2, that exploded in that area about 2,000 years ago. And so this is an interesting thing that we can start using. There are records of these objects that happen, and we've been able to find and study them. But now, our history, I guess, here is a bit more recent than that. And it actually starts with this man, Walter Duffield. Walter Duffield was an astronomer who was originally from Adelaide in what's called South Australia, but then moved to the UK and was at the University of Reading. And at the turn of the century, there was a large project, the turn of the last century, to establish a global observatory network to start studying the sun. So this was shortly after the Carrington event in 1859, which was that massive solar storm that created not only very strong aurora, but also the effects of energy make its way down and affecting telegraph lines and those sorts of things. And so there was this huge push to build this. And so there was observatories across the US that they were using. So the Naval Observatory, as well as Lick in California, and then an early one in Hawaii. They also had some, obviously, in the UK. They had some in India. So they started to link these observatories. And it turned out that they started to see that there was kind of a gap. And that gap happened to be between India and then the far west coast / Hawaii of the US. And that is kind of where Australia lies. And it also had the benefit that it'd be in the southern hemisphere. So obviously with the seasons, they could each benefit each other. And so there was this push to say, all right, well, Australia was really a young nation at this time, starting to become quite scientifically involved. And so Walter Duffield, having been Australian, said, "Oh, we'll start pushing for Australia to build a national observatory to do part of this project." And there was a lot of debate about it, but with the strength of the aurora, this is a photo taken here from Mount Stromlo of the G4 storm last year in June, or our June, late May for you. It was fantastic here. We still had very dark skies. This was taken on my all-sky camera, which just does 20-second exposures, but it was visible to the naked eye here in Canberra. And so there was this lot of great belief that, again, also being in the south, we would be able to monitor activity from the South Pole in addition to the North Pole that you could do in the Northern Hemisphere. So this international group started to lobby the Australian government. Walter Duffield, being from Adelaide, actually first lobbied the South Australian government, but they said that's not a state problem, that's a federal problem, so go bug them. The federal government said that's a great idea, but go away, we have no money. It's great to see nothing has changed, regardless of the country, in 120 years. But there was this big push about how do we establish this activity. And it was eventually private donations. In 1911, the first telescope was established on the site. And so this was built by James Oddie. James Oddie made his money during the gold rush days in Australia. The gold rush here was about 10 years after the gold rush in California. And so he made a lot of his money during the gold rush. He was also an avid astronomer. So he donated money and his telescope to start building this national project. The government was very reluctant. Again, sometimes federal government projects are quite slow because it was going to cost about £10,000 to build the first observatory. The astronomers eventually reached an agreement that they would build this telescope in Canberra. Canberra had just been established in 1909 as the federal capital. So very much like DC, it was situated between states as kind of an independent body. And it ultimately was because Sydney and Melbourne couldn't agree. So the government just created a part of land and said, no, no one gets it. And so this formed a territory like the District of Columbia that was going to be the seat of the federal government. And because it was going to be a national observatory, we'd put that in that land, which is where Canberra is now. Because of this kind of needing of the money, the government said they'd pay half of it, but the astronomers would have to pay the other half. Now, what the government didn't know is that the astronomers had started to receive these private donations. So after they signed their agreement, it only took 2 days to get the rest of their money and set up the observatory. So, in fact, the very first building built by the actual government of Australia is the first telescope of Mount Stromlo. Because what we call the Confederation or the Federation was enacted in the early 1900s in Australia. And so the first government project built by the national government was this first telescope of Mount Stromlo. This is what we think is the first image off that telescope. This is of Eta Carina in the southern hemisphere. So you can kind of start to see a bit of the dust lane in the middle of the nebula. This was taken on obviously photographic plates at the time, which was very, what was the mainstream. While this just started to get going, there was something that happened, and that was the outbreak of World War I. World War I really kind of slowed this project as to be expected. So the astronomers from the UK who were going to come over and run it as part of this waited until the 1920s post-war effort to come over. So it wasn't until January 1st, 1924, that we were kind of established as like a formal entity, and the astronomers started to come over and make its way into setting up the observatory. So in 1924 into 26s, that's when we really started to get going. And so a lot of the work in the early days was solar observations. The right dome here had what we called a heliostat. So this used a mirror with a prism to do spectra of the sun. And in fact, the first spectral atlas of all of the sun lines was created by an astronomer, Clay Allen, in 1928. So the most comprehensive and detailed spectral atlas of all of the solar lines came from this dome here in the late 20s. And it was really to categorize what are the ratios of all of the elements, especially the heavy elements. So carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, helium, things like sodium as well in the sun. And this was super important, right? This was what we were going to use to then really relate and calibrate all of the other stellar work, especially done like at Harvard Observatory in Palomar in California, to start figuring out what it was and how were these stars behaving. So for 20, 30 years, we were kind of this remote outpost outside the capital. This is from 32. And I just want to point two things because they're going to come back a bit later. Firstly, Mount Stromlo, they built it to be covered in pine trees. If I go to this very first photo, in the 19 teens, we were this barren rock. It was just sheep grazing land. There wasn't much to it. And in the mid-teens into 20s, the government, at the bequest of the astronomers, planted a pine forest around the observatory. So the argument here was to improve the seeing. If the pine trees grew, they would absorb more of the heat. So instead of the heat radiating up into the sky, it would be absorbed more by the trees and therefore would produce better seeing on the mountaintop. Now, eventually, this became a problem because down the road in 2003, it shall show, is what led to the massive bushfires which destroyed Mount Stromlo in 2003. The other thing was we were remote. And even though the town of Canberra, the capital, was small but growing, there was very strict light pollution controls. Street lights were regulated. In fact, they were usually on a timer so that they would go off at night so the observatory can do its daytime or nighttime work. There was restrictions on where you built houses, the type of lights, everything. So even though it was a small town at that time, it was heavily regulated based on the work of what was or what is now Mount Stromlo. Back then, it was called the Commonwealth Observatory. And I'm going to go back to this because we've gone a little bit back nowadays to reshaping the work that we're doing in that space. So in the 30s, a lot of the work has to do with studying the sun and its effects. One of the big experiments that came in the 1930s was doing ionospheric monitoring. So these two radio towers were used to monitor storms coming from the sun. So when those eruptions happen from the sun, they obviously produce a lot of radio frequency interference. This could lead to things like radio blackouts, but it can also just affect radio transmissions. And in the 20s and 30s, we knew this phenomenon happened. We didn't have a great model on how it affected the various frequencies. And so astronomers here started to do the first modeling of this, which actually became vastly important because later that decade, it was that model that was used by the Allies in World War II for radio communication transmissions. So this station is still active while we manage it now. It's now part of a larger network, which is part of the Bureau of Meteorology, so like the National Weather Service, that does the space weather monitoring, like what NOAA it does in the US, but it does it for Australia. Fun fact, the house doesn't actually have anyone in it. Turns out if you want to build a scientific building and make it fancy, it is really expensive and takes a long time. If you build a house and just shove computers into it, it is really cheap and quick to do. So the house doesn't actually have anyone in it. It is just to store the computers and the data for the monitoring station. So simple solution sometimes for more complex problems than it needs to be. World War II really changed what we did. Pre-World War II, we had about 12 to 15 staff, which was not big, not small, for an observatory. At the end of World War II, we had 70 staff. And that was because we became the optical munitions factory for Australia and New Zealand. The US and the UK were supposed to supply equipment for all sorts of things for the war effort, including optical munitions, so gun sights, navigating sights, periscopes, those sorts of things. Obviously, because of the issues in the war and all that sort of thing, that didn't happen. The observatory, with people who knew how to make pieces of glass, started to take this role on. And pretty much anything that required a piece of glass that was used by Australia and New Zealand in World War II was actually made at the observatory. You can't quite see it, but this gun sight, which is for an artillery gun, is stamped CSO, which is the Commonwealth Solar Observatory, the name at the time. And this was quite important. So not only was it necessary for the war effort, but as European immigrants came to Australia who had a background in physics or engineering, we were able to employ them. They can participate in the war effort, but then also they can still keep to their experience in science or engineering or astronomy that they would have been doing in Europe. And so at the end of World War II, we had a huge amount of staff who were experts in making these things, operating these things. And so it really made us grow in the 40s and 50s to doing the massive nighttime work that I'll talk about in a second. So post World War II, we started to take on a lot more roles. One of the interesting things that happened, and this was one of the byproducts of World War II, was the Allies, in particular, the US, UK, and Australia, wanting a better coordination of timekeeping. Obviously, the US Naval Observatory does it for the US. Greenwich Observatory does it for the UK. And at the end of the war in the 40s, they started to formalize ways of doing timekeeping. So for us in Australia in 1944, we set up the National Timekeeping Service. So what astronomers did, they used these transit telescopes. So both the UNS Naval Observatory, Greenwich, and us, as stars moved overhead, the positions of those stars were plotted, and then the time it made that transit over the telescope, series of clocks were set, and that became the official time. So, when in the 60s and 70s, when we used to call to get the time popcorn in the US, in Australia, they had a similar thing that came from where we are today. In the 70s, it moved back to its own government department now, which is called the National Measurements Institute. But these are the sorts of things we really started to take on. There was something else that just happened at that time as well, before we really shaped into a major national observatory. And that was we actually had our first fire on the mountain. The first fire was quite small. It only burnt part of the main observatory building, and it cleared some of the trees. In fact, if you go here, this is taken in the early 60s, so about 10 years after that fire. If you notice, the pine trees here are much smaller than the pine trees we planted in the teens. So all of these burnt, but then they reseeded and grew the trees in the 50s and 60s. Now this becomes important because the uncontrolled growth of it is actually what fuels the flames that destroyed the fire that I'll touch on in a second. So in the 50s and 60s, there was a huge push for a lot of Northern Hemisphere groups to observe the southern skies. So we started to observe a lot of things like the Large and Small Magellanic Cloud, the Galactic Center, the ages of stars, a lot of things that we couldn't quite see in the Northern Hemisphere. So a lot of groups, because we already established and because we could build the telescopes, we started to partner with these groups overseas. So this telescope was built with Yale and Columbia universities. It did the first measurements of the expansion of the universe to the Magellanic Clouds. And then, nowadays we've improved on that about both the rate of expansion of the universe and the age of the universe. But this was kind of the first attempt at doing it. We have a telescope built with the UK. The one in the center there is built with Uppsala, Sweden. This was quite cool because this was actually the first telescope, which wasn't really planned on it, that did satellite tracking. The very first image of Sputnik actually came from that telescope in 1957, because Sputnik was mostly observable in the southern hemisphere. Obviously, everyone wanted to see what the Russians were actually doing. We were in the right spot, and so the first image came from that telescope in 57. In fact, just the other month, I found the original glass plate that image was taken of. So there was a huge push of doing this international collaboration, working with overseas groups to observe the southern skies. And so this made us grow and became big. But we also had to experience another problem, and that was the town nearby, Canberra, was growing as well. So light pollution was becoming a bigger and bigger problem. So we established a second site called Siding Springs. So this is where our dark sky site is now in Australia. It's about 8 hours north of Canberra. It's about 5.5 hours northwest of Sydney. It's in the middle of nowhere, which is obviously perfect for an observatory. We have about 45 telescopes on different hills. And a lot of these telescopes are now part of global networks to do. Right now, we're doing a lot of follow-up with new supernova coming out of the Vera Rubin telescope in Chile. There's a lot of following up of exoplanet candidates and a lot of survey data done for measuring things like the growth rate and structure of the universe. And so we established this now 60 years ago because we knew of the growing light pollution effects of Mount Stromlo. And this became important because, we, for 40 years, we had two amazing sites. We had huge infrastructure at both. And so we really were one of the largest, or we were the largest, we still are in a different way, facilities in the southern skies. Now, obviously, ESO in Chile has a lot of telescopes there, and we have telescopes at CTIO outside La Serena, run by the US. But as an organization, we were doing all this work, and then the bushfires happened in 2003 for us. In 2003, a lightning strike very far away burnt in the national park. For about 6 days, simmered, and then one day, the winds and temperature were in the right condition and blew all the way in. And in fact, they blew all the way into town. About 500 houses were lost in the city. There was 4 fatalities, not on the mountain, luckily, but in town. And a lot of the observatory at Mount Stromlo was destroyed. Um, we hold a very unfortunate record for being the single largest insurance claim in Australian history. We're also the largest insurance lawsuit in Australian history, but that's a completely different story. And so there was a lot of decisions about what to do. Do we rebuild? Do we, because we were affiliated and part of ANU, so this is the National University in Australia, do we just go to the main 8 campus in town and abandon the site? We still have Siding Spring, our dark sky site. But then there was a choice of let's reuse the site. Let us redevelop it in different ways. Just as we shifted from doing solar observatory, then we did some stuff in World War II, then we did nighttime observatory. This represented a new phase. And it was thanks to, that we had the benefit of good directors to have this vision and thinking about what do we want to do and what can we do going forward. Nowadays, we've built a number of things. Sites where so in the center here is where the Uppsala telescope, that telescope that spotted Sputnik was. We now have telescopes that are used for high school students to do research projects. Our old workshops, we have small telescopes for schools that visit us. We get about 15 or so thousand kids that come up to the mountain every year. Canberra has a really cool, or Australia has a really cool scheme where the government funds, excuse me, sorry, funds kids from around Australia to visit the national capital to see how government works. So they visit Parliament House, which is like our Congress, the Electoral Commission, the War Memorial. So all the national things that you have, like in DC, students are paid to visit to see how the government works and how the country is in its history. And it's a really great scheme, and I wish there was more funding to do this in the US to have more kids visit DC and learn about the history and the government. The benefit for us is all of these kids visit from all around Australia, so we get to connect kids from different cities, rural kids, regional kids, all across. And for us, they visit all these places during the day, but everything closes at 5 because they're government buildings. So all the teachers are always confused about what do they do in the evening. Besides, what does a year 6 teacher with 50 boys do besides cry in the evening? Well, they get to come up the mountain and do astronomy. And so this is a really cool thing that we get to touch on that you couldn't necessarily have done without rebuilding the site. But we've also had a lot of new infrastructure on the mountain. One of the projects that we've rebuilt after the fires is a system that does 3 things. So this uses a laser system to track space junk. Space junk is becoming a huge problem. There is a lot of debris that orbits the Earth. And, this problem is becoming bigger and bigger. We currently have 15 or so thousand satellites orbiting the Earth. Piece is bigger than 15 centimeters. We have about 30,000 to 50,000, bigger than a centimeter or so. We have hundreds of thousands. And so the Space Force can track the bigger objects, but the smaller objects are hard to track. And so using laser systems that we built here, originally to do what we call adaptive optics, to what we do is we shine a laser into the sky, it acts like a fake star, and then we use that laser to adapt the telescope. So it does real-time monitoring of what the atmosphere is doing. Then we build mirrors to correct for the atmospheric distortion. And so we now use these lasers to find these little bits of debris. We can find an object a centimeter wide at a height of about 3,000 kilometers. And we now have a second laser that can actually deorbit the junk. So the laser shoots at the object and we get rid of it. Now, we don't vaporize it. What we do is use the laser to push it into the Earth's atmosphere, kind of to accelerate the process, and therefore burn up and get cleaned up in the Earth's atmosphere. We also use it to improve the GPS network. So the GPS network, we point this at GPS satellites to refine the GPS positioning. And right now in Australia, we're improving the positioning, the public GPS network to an accuracy of about 5 to 10 centimeters using this technology. So, it's a very different way that we've done astronomy, but it's also a new way that we're reusing the site. Another one that was just relevant the past month is doing laser communications. So this was used and tested for Artemis 2. And so this station was built 2 years ago to work with the other two NASA stations that did this to do laser optical communications. Now, the reason we do lasers or want to do lasers now is if you're sending a radio wave, say from Mars or the moon, that beam disperses, which means it is relatively slow landing on Earth, and you get relatively slow amount of data receiving on Earth. Whereas on Mars or with lasers, you can send a lot more data effectively. And so with the two US stations and us here in Australia, we set up this network and we're able to get these videos and photos during Artemis 2 downloaded in real time. So we got the fastest we got the network around the moon was 260 megabits per second download rate using our station here in Australia. So it actually, if anyone who watched the live stream, now NASA was actually buffering the stream. So they limited the bandwidth because they were a bit worried about overloading the entire system. So even though we were able to go to 260 megabits per second, getting the data out of the Artemis 2 capsule, they throttled or limited the speed so that it wouldn't be, again, overwhelming the data. But we kind of showed that, hey, we can do this. And again, this is technology. We built it for astronomy, but we've reused the site to do something very different, but obviously very important. We also do now a lot of satellite manufacturing. So we have come kind of the de facto satellite hub for Australia and New Zealand. It's about 80 or so % of all satellites that we build come out of, for Australia and New Zealand, come out of us. And it's not just doing it for astronomy. We do have a few telescopes working in astronomy. Some of them are for other purposes. We're building one that uses infrared cameras to detect bushfires or forest fires when they start. So using infrared glow, you can look over large parts of the continent very regularly and both measure what we call the fuel load. So how dry are the areas where a fire is going to spread, but then also detect it using infrared way earlier than on-ground reporting or even towers. So it's using the astronomy aspects to really do something a bit different than what we've previously done. We've worked with a spin-off company out of the university here. It's called Skycraft. And this is building a network of 200 satellites that will do real-time tracking of every airplane in orbit or in flight. So right now there are a few networks, but there's only a few satellites that do the tracking. Skycraft is building this network to do continuous monitoring of all airplanes continuously. So there's a lot of this different stuff that we're doing. Now we're still doing astronomy. The new large telescope project that we're leading with 7 U.S. universities is the Giant Magellan Telescope. So for those that haven't heard, the Giant Magellan Telescope is a 25-meter primary mirror. Now, you can't build a single piece of glass that big. So you build 8.5 or so, 8.4-meter segments, and then you put them in a ring to act roughly like a 25-meter optical primary. Here's a person to scale. Now, we're not building the mirrors. The mirrors are built at the University of Arizona, but we're building the laser systems to improve the imaging. So, firstly, just to put this to scale, because I think it's always good to see how large we're getting. We have Hubble at 2.4 meters. We have James Webb at 6.5 meters. And this is the new era of large telescopes on the ground. They are exceptionally large. I think it's hard to just imagine how big 25 meters is as a mirror. We painted it in our car park, so you can see it on Google Earth in our car park of how big it is. But we're building the adaptive optics system. So what this will do is use lasers to go into the Earth's atmosphere, correct for or measure the Earth's atmosphere turbulence, and therefore then correct that using the adaptive mirrors. So what this telescope is being designed to be able to do is we can measure the turbulence in the sky at the rate of about a millisecond, and then the secondary mirrors here at the top will be built so that they can change rate at about a millisecond using little actuators. So this really is creating a telescope that will be 100 times more powerful than Hubble with 10 times better resolution than Hubble. To put this into scale, to show this, so this is a simulation, but this is what you would see of a small telescope on Earth. This is what Hubble sees of that same area. So we all know it could see fainter and clearer. James Webb is much better. And this is what the GMT will see. So we're really going from this pre-ground based to that. And so, we're a 10% partner in this telescope, and we're building the laser systems. And that actually is all because of the fires. We use that insurance money and we use that change to focus a little bit of what we are doing. And I think this is the exciting aspects going forward, is that we're having a think about what do we need to do going forward in the future, not just what have we done in the past. Now, I want to touch a little bit on at the end what we're doing locally here. When we were set up, there was no town. Even as the town grew, there were strict lighting policies. A lot of that fell away as the observatory shifted focus, and then in particular after the bushfires. But we've gone back to that. And I like showing this photo because you can see the full effect. So this is, you have the Milky Way here. Here's the Southern Cross. Here's the Coalsack Nebula. Here's the Large Magellanic Cloud and the Small Magellanic Cloud. We have Orion. It's upside down to us, so just turn your head upside down and it'll look right. And this is looking west. So here is south, here is west. Mount Stromlo is west of Canberra, just on the outside. So when you look towards the west, it's very dark, beautiful skies. But as you start going to the south, that is the creep of light pollution. This is a photo taken at 2 a.m. And so you get to show the full effect of what light pollution genuinely does. That you start to get the sky washed out. Now, we all know that. But in a place where, if you look west and it's dark and you look east towards the city and it's a lot brighter, it's a very stark reminder of what we're doing. Now, working with the territory or state government, so it's like working with the local government in DC, as an example, we are reworking back on that. So there is now both very strict lighting policies in our town, but we're trialing a lot of technology across the board to improve light pollution. And it's not just an improvement for astronomy. It's energy usage, it's reducing CO2 emissions, it's saving money, and it's environmentally. And it actually starts with some policies. And now any new development within about a 10-mile radius of Mount Stromlo, plus any new suburban development, has to have very strict lighting policies to not affect the work that we're doing. And if it does, you have to work with the observatory to get approval for that lighting. I'm the person that does that approval. And so when groups and companies have built it, we've worked with them. And I'm the great example. I'm going to talk about McDonald's. They were building a new McDonald's not too far on the main highway exit that takes us to the observatory as they were developing new suburbs. And so when they built this petrol station or gas station and McDonald's, because it was creating light, they had to work with us on the design. Now, this actually isn't this one. I'm going to talk about this one in a second. They built this one, and we talked to them about, well, what we're trying to do, why we're trying to reduce light pollution and its effects. So they built the design of it such that any window or light that was open was shining into nearby trees to limit the scatter of light. They built the McDonald's arch sign at the same height of the building to prevent scattered light as much as possible going upward. It was actually very easy to work with the franchisee and the design to do this. Now, fast forward 2 years later, they built another McDonald's in a different part of town. But because we had already had that discussions, they went ahead and already designed it that way, including with the really small McDonald's sign. Like, Canberra has, I think, the 2 smallest McDonald's signs in the world because we talked about light pollution. And it was actually quite easy. It was showing what are we trying to do, what are we trying to accomplish, and what can they accomplish with that to improve things. But as a city, we're doing a lot. And I'm going to show an example of this. So this is a image from VIIRS. VIIRS is a NOAA satellite that, amongst other things, measures light intensity on the ground. So this is Sydney. This is a photo of light pollution in Sydney. And the left image is in 2012, and then 10 years later is one on the right. So you can think of it as a heat map, where the redder the color, the more intense the light pollution is. So in 10 years, you can see that large parts of Sydney have grown. Where it was just orange, now there's a lot of pink. Areas where there was only this little light blue and green, now there's lots of yellow and orange. Even the areas of red have gotten further pink and more of it. Not shockingly, as we've seen in many places, as cities and population have grown, so too has light pollution. If we look at Canberra over the same time period, we've actually decreased. This orange has now gone to yellow. This green has shrunk in. This orange, there's a lot more yellow here. We've actually reduced it. Over 10 years, the light pollution of Canberra has decreased by about 30%. In one suburb alone, so this is like the monthly sky brightness that we took in a town center we call Belconnen, we started to see it. And this is because we started to change the lights. In December 2018, all new lights in Canberra are fitted so that they're perfectly flat. And this is a very simple measurement, but as we know, that is producing that upward spill. It's also making it brighter on the ground. All of the way these lights are now fixed has meant that is decreasing the light pollution. So in 2018, December 2018, they started and installed the new lights. And then over the course of 3.5 years, you can see the sky brightness has dipped by about 30%. The suburb nearest where I am at Mount Stromlo, they've always had some lighting policies, but then they started to replace every single light as this new thing, and the sky is actually 70% darker over the past 10 years, and it's getting further. So the government, we have replaced, working with them, we've replaced all of the main street lights. Now, in the next 18 months, we're doing every side street and every small street in town. But that's just the first step. We're doing something what's called adaptive lighting. Every light fixture now has a Wi-Fi node. And what we're doing is customizing the light output per bulb. So roughly between 11:30 midnight and about 4:30 in the morning, all of the lights go from 100% that we can control to 50% dim. So just as an example, so we focus on this nearby suburb from Mount Stromlo. So if you look at the sky glow right over here, you can kind of see these bright lights here and a bit of the haze on the mountain back. As we dropped it to about 60 and 20%, you can visually see the dome glow be reduced. And we have found a couple of things. Firstly, you know what happens when you dim 100% to 50% in the middle of the night? No one notices. No one's out there. And the people who are out there probably don't want them to be out there anyways. It also is because the lights are more efficient and we've limited that upward spill, we're actually getting more light on the ground. So 50% is like what a 90% bulb used to be. So we've also now, and again, taking this step that not everywhere in the city needs the exact same amount of lighting. A main street needs it differently than a side street. The areas where it's mostly industrial or offices doesn't need the same lighting infrastructure in the middle of the night as a suburban street or where you're having a park. And so the city is now actively changing where we put every light and how that light operates. We're right now using machine learning to create a model based on every traffic flow. Where do people go in? When is the peak? When do they leave? And customizing the light output per street and per area in town. We also now have sensors in all the lights so that even if it dims in the middle of the light, if a car comes in driving at night, the sensor picks up the car, the lights brighten, the car drives through, and then the lights dim again. And so this is huge. For every 10% we dim the lights, we save 5% in terms of sky brightness, roughly. So we're dropping it quite a lot anytime we dip it. Now we can't turn them off, but it's how do we design it such that we don't just have the lights blaring all the time, that we make it customizable to what we are doing. And so this has been a massive undertaking, and the government is completely on board. The benefits to them are we're actually reducing energy output. Both the switch to new lights and doing this adaptive lighting where we dim it in the night. Noting Canberra is relatively small. We only have about 400,000 people. It's a relatively small town. We save the equivalent of about 2 gigawatts worth of energy every year because of this now. So it is a huge amount of savings the government has massively recouped because of how we've approached this topic. We're also doing now the next step where we now have a new type of light that not only changes brightness, but it changes color. So we start at that white light that designers use for traffic flow. And then as we get darker into the night, it goes more to yellow all the way to a red light. It is red for most of the night and then goes back up to yellow and white as traffic flow and people change. So it's not just for astronomy, but it also has a massive impact on our native animals. Australia has a lot of nocturnal animals, and so it has a huge effect. So we've really worked backwards, and this is a huge project I've been doing to go back and work with the government on, where do we start it? How do we affect the sky? How do people enjoy the sky? How do people connect the sky? And doing that in a way that is both safe but efficient for everyone. And so it's a really cool project that we're now hoping to expand across Australia. And there are communities in the US that are trying to do this, and we're hoping to show that, hey, you can do this safely, effectively, and it is cost benefit to you to do it this way. I may stop there, and I'm happy to do some questions.
Well, folks. Okay, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Tracking satellites to track Vanguard 1.
Vanguard 1. I don't know if we have. We tracked, I think we did. We tracked Echo 1. Echo 1 was the first geostationary orbit. I don't know if we did Vanguard. We did Vanguard 3 and Delta 1. I don't know if we did Vanguard 1, though.
Yeah, because that's the only one, the oldest one in the air.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know if we do that anymore, but I know it's still up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Man, I used to work at the Naval Research Lab That's our satellite.
I know, I know. Echo 3, I think Naval Research Lab did Echo 3 as well. And when it was lost in geostationary orbit, we were the ones that refound it.
Cool. I have a question.
Yes.
I think the adaptive lighting
Yes.
is really cool, and I haven't seen that before. And where is this going on in the US?
Not so far, not many places. Um, Flagstaff has done a bit with Lowell. Tucson has done not adaptive lighting, but they've done some with just controlled lighting. Now, street lights are not the answer. We're finishing a paper that shows that in at least our town, which matches similar figures from Tucson, about 40 to 55 or so percent of the lights comes from street lights. That still means businesses, houses have a large part, and we all know that. Um, I don't know of a lot of places in the US so far that have jumped on adaptive lighting. Right now, it's a lot more popular in Europe. Denmark, France, and Germany are quite in particular that have done this. Um, and a lot of this is showing to governments, because obviously governments tend to be a bit risk averse, that it can be safe and operated the whole time. In fact, sorry, I'll tell a funny story. When I went to do the testing at the mountain, so I would go up the mountain, between 11:30 and 4:30 to do the sky measurements. And when I drove from home and I passed a cop car, there was a cop parked on next to the parkway, looking up the main highway, and they were clearly trying to hide to catch speeders. They were doing speed checking. I don't expect many people to be in Canberra, but Canberra's a small town, and in the middle of June, which is our winter, when it's, 25, 30 Fahrenheit outside, not many people are on the road. They had a very easy night. So I drove by, I saw them. As I was coming home, they hadn't moved. They had been in the whole spot the whole time. There was no one on the highway. So I just stopped and I went up and talked to them. Now, usually when someone in the middle of the night just goes walks to the police car in the middle of the highway, they question your sanity. And so I said, hey, this sounds odd. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you noticed the lights change? Because they were perfectly standing at an entire row of these lights. And firstly, they started to look at me very strange. But I had my laptop, so I was like, here, this is the lights. And I even demonstrated, I'm going to dim this light, and here's the data from it. And then they did recognize that I was the local astronomer that talks on the radio, so they knew I wasn't too crazy. And I said, have you noticed the lights change? And they had not noticed for 5 hours staring at the lights that the lights had dimmed. And that's because the human eye doesn't really pick that up. And the way we see it is not as effective, it's nowhere near how big of an impact we think it is. And so we're actually working with the federal police and other organizations on testing this. Obviously, safety is always an issue, traffic flow is always the issue, but we're freely working with data and monitoring this to make sure that it doesn't have that impact, to demonstrate to more governments to say it isn't going to create more safety hazardous problems. It's actually going to be more effective in the long run. And so this is kind of the push that we're trying to do, because I still think there's a lot of municipalities and countries reluctant to take it on board.
Even if you don't have an observatory in your net 40, so to speak, I think it just seems important to bring light levels down for humans, for animals, for everybody, and bring back.
1,000%. And so our argument is least about astronomy for that exact reason, right? It's saying it's about health, it's about environment, it's just purely about energy and cost. I now have a new project that we're just starting where, lots of people have smartwatches now. Well, we've been changing a whole bunch of lights in the middle of the night. So we're pulling and we're working purely opt-in with everyone's sleep cycle data on their smartwatch to see if there's been an effect on the street lights being dimmed on their sleep cycle.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Because again, unknowingly, it's been happening for a year. So we can, again, try and have that effect on what is actually happening across these things, not, as you said, just for astronomy or having an observatory nearby.
Are you using artificial intelligence in any of your work? And what is that? If
A
so,
lot. So we use a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence. For the street lights, we're using it to monitor the networks and traffic flows to model and predict patterns, per hour per street. And my main astronomy work in finding transients, so mostly supernova, but also some tidal disruption event stars ripped apart by black holes. Things like Vera Rubin now that it's on in Chile are producing thousands of transients per night. And we use machine learning and artificial intelligence to try and sift through what are the real candidates and not. Astronomy is a volume and data volume problem. Artificial intelligence helps us sift through, what is clearly the junk, what is clearly the good stuff, what is in between, and then refine that to make us more efficient. And we've been doing this for years. As it becomes more popular and more mainstream, it is a world that we've been in for quite a while now.
How's life in Australia?
yeah, how's your afternoon?
Right?
We're so far pretty good. Trying to make sense of things. But yes. Look, I think Australia is in a nice place. Um, we're coming into winter now, obviously, but well, let's say issues in the Middle East have not been popular here. In particular because we are highly controlled based on imports from overseas. So I think last month during the height, our gas was close to about $11 a gallon. So, regardless of people's political views, they just weren't happy with that. Let's say that.
What
It's
day
gone
is
back down. It's gone back down now, which is good.
what day is it in Australia?
Um, yeah, we're Thursday. It's Thursday, the 14th of May. So, no, Australia is nice. As I said, we have the first NFL game being hosted in Australia in Melbourne, um, in early September. It'll be weird because it's a 10:35 a.m. kickoff for us to be 8 p.m. for you. So it's not even like, yeah, it's a strange time, but that's all right.
So how many amateur astronomers can you host for the solar eclipse in 2028?
It's a great one because of the location. So it goes right over Sydney, like downtown. It could not be better placed. Like the main road in Sydney is in the center of the path. So there's actually going to be a good one because there's a lot of accommodation. If you are considering going for the solar eclipse, do not go to Sydney though. It is guaranteed, like every astronomer, to have it's going to be raining on that day in July 2028. Because it's coastal, it always has unsettled weather. If you go further inland, it gets really dry and you get some really clear July days. So there's a lot of people that we can host. And so there's already a lot of planning for that, obviously. The downside is, unlike the US, once you get outside the big cities, the towns do become quite sparse, and so does accommodation. It may be something that you want to stay in Sydney and then drive west. Um, in Canberra, we're just outside totality. We're at like 97, 98% coverage. So we don't have to go far to go in totality, but I'm going to go far and a little bit inland to do it. Siding Spring or other site is in the path of totality, which will be nice. There's not a lot of accommodation there, but there is in town, and it's becoming popular. But also Australia, like the US had a series. We have another good one in 2030 that goes across, and another one in 2034, I think it is. So it's something like in the next 10 years, every major Australian city will have a total solar eclipse. We only have six large cities, but we kind of slice and dice the country over the next 10 years. So we were all sad that we missed all the great ones in the US. Everyone's excited for the ones in July and then 2030 and then 2034.
Yeah, well, you never know. I was in dry Texas. We still got clouds.
Exactly. That's right. I know. I had a lot of friends that went to Texas, and I was like, oh, that's not good. So, and and the thing with Australia is there's not many roads, so you can't necessarily just easily crisscross to go find a clear spot. So I think there's going to be a lot of maximizing of where you could possibly go and then drive to it. But yes, it is guaranteed to rain in Sydney in 2020 in July 21st, 2028. Sorry. If that's your plan, do something else. Sydney's great. Visit it on the way after.
Okay, Brad, thanks. One question, what time is it there right now?
It's 10:30 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Not quite lunchtime.
No, that's right. It's a very civilized time. Usually in the US, with meetings in the US, because it's a morning meeting for me, I have to stay up late. So this was great. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me and listening. And again, if other people have questions, including advice on where to go for the clips, feel free to shoot me an email.
He's also on Facebook.
Yes. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Good day, mate.
Good day, then.
So we can take a break now?
Yeah.
Until tomorrow.
Let's take a 15-minute break. And during our 15-minute break, let's do door prizes, sign in, and somebody needs to take this home. Somebody had some interest in it a few minutes ago. It needs to go home. You can make it a mortar. You can make it a Halloween costume. I don't care. Just it needs to go.
It's a 3-inch F10 Jaggers telescope that was advertised in their little yellow gold catalog in the 1950s and early 60s.
Just about fixed it there.
And it uses 0.91 inch microscope eyepiece.
I actually have those.
And it wants a home. Have some refreshments. Do your thing over there and grab tickets.
Wasn't
Read
raining
the-
for, it is raining right now. But it was from the rain for a couple hours.
How much is that?
It will rain for a couple
I
hours.
think it's supposed to be in there.
Hey, bro. Yes, three tickets for everybody. This is the one you did.
Yes. Be out Saturday.
Made it over. I made it up, not very mind.
Yeah, you got, you know. I can say. Yeah, so I like. But there are a lot of places. When I walked in, I probably in the back, I got the opposite. It's 7 or 8 telescopes. Nanometers of accuracy that you put it through from probably a double pane, but with a plastic piece of plastic for infrared. So I get in between. And then all you have to do is they're beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It's good for land, it's not in any way, shape, or I made the first one. So I will literally be.
I'll be down there with
Only,
would you ask if I was interested in going to Texas?
Yeah.
Joel and I learned not to first dog gets I think that's a little. And Paris is the other. Well.
Inspired. Started dark skies, can't put them in my neighborhood.
He's really not.
Or it's like astronomy program.
Yeah, it's, something great, as a day, now, yeah, so it's not.
And now I have
They retired.
Neither what?
But government and.
Gary.
Good glass. Number two daughters.
I'm good at chicken.
Oh, you haven't looked to see it.
There's a line.
Okay.
Sure.
What's the hand I did?
But you need so. So being, she's the last. Or assuming, you know how when it can't. That's good. So, yeah, I can see that. Those things. You know, like zero, within on 45. Yeah. I was. Yeah, and I know about it's Real Street. Say, usually not great. So they were long time too, so that you make it so very flat. Yeah, I know. They told us they were given, so I don't have to worry about that. So no, has people. I'm doing right, what call she doesn't got with something. I like that. Or something. I was here, so I was here. It's not quite. But Well, there's one where. Yeah, it's all right. I'll get it, you're lower. And I want to be active, but I around. Picture coming out, and I got one picture that I see it, the wire that says with it doesn't wire, and I still won't use wire. I already got my convenience wise. I know. We're that way up in one of those. Just look at the crowd. Yeah, it's not.
Actually, it's kind of. This is I haven't, yeah. They changed their. Changed something about the way. There's not working. You have to work it in. So that. No, I have not. Really sexy. Just. It is, but there's such a. Yeah, I find that's right. But it helps you. Yeah. Well, I take the dog every night. 1960. And yeah, I just said, school. I was going to put in Planetarium.
I'm not.
Teachers. These were real planetariums. We had one here. The one in Bridge, I said, I'll drive here. I mean, I just where pieces of a and the space was already having focus now, so it's nothing, something that was. So there's sort of, so I had some little projectors for the table sound. I should have. But pinhole, the rest of it. It's not what else, pinholes. Yeah, this is the uses of the white. So you never know. That's the most well part of it. That mirror on the white paper, would they have, Fine was the guy who came to us. Put two pieces of glass together. Just look at him there, getting our prime paper. And you get that, so, go to this side, you got a full. But then normal 6 inches. You still need something to check, right? And again, but the flip side, it's break the power of the and I figure too that would be a big sense. The Girl Scout tower, you're gonna use a dial, play a 25-foot and play it in mirrors that you want. But they don't have a projector for it. Anybody wants it. There's a lot of. It'd be nice if somebody came up with the how cheap to make the cameras. I'm dying to get my deal on it. Yeah, right, yeah. Theater projectors. I've got a bunch of it only has to go 6 or 10 feet. We had that at work here, it was just. And not only that, we have.
And it would report, even though it was going up. It was reporting where on side or everything. And so that's gotta be in our law. But that's a specific animal. And I'll send out. And there's nothing of him saying, but it's all about. It's doing wide angle. It's not doing anything.
He's trying.
My idea is. Well, that's supposed to be. You're gonna be absolutely right. I also remember when they had the first. There's something like 3-2. No, there was a red green one, to make it cheap, I had 3. They had to. Exactly the right distance, because not only the out of focus, but have very specific, couldn't change it. Digression. Those things that was better, I think.
Whether he's dedicated or he still has. Cheryl.
Yeah, during my third year. So these projectors turn around. You got when they had information going around. The way they came by, they had the. Secondary nerve. And not only this, because it was. It wasn't into glow.
It's not on your president one, but it's on your membership card.
They could really turn out. For people.
Okay, what's the last name?
Alberta, AU.
Bob?
Yes.
In fact, oh, wait a minute. Bowman.
Mine doesn't expire until
So let me see.
2029.
Probably. Modified.
All right, I don't want it to open in Google Sheets. I want it to just.
Do
that. All right. You expire this year. It's always nice to know when you're gonna die, right? That's a joke. Your membership expires this year. So, they are due this month because I have to get it in time to the lead.
Okay, go online.
Or I'll take cash or check now.
Oh, I didn't bring it.
Okay, yeah. You can do PayPal online or you can send it to my house. Because if you send it to the PO box, then Bert's got to catch up with me. And then he takes a picture and sends me the picture and I go, okay, pay.
Okay, I'll do PayPal.
Very good. We're gonna reconvene. So folks could kind of regroup.
But I think the length of the course itself is.
Make the video off.
Pretty much.
Well, that's good.
That's the men's one. See, that's 7K church. Because they make them like big semiconductors.
Well, if they find
Even though
out.
those semiconductors now.
300.
Being
Yeah, the
cheap.
equivalent of 300 or 400 slots in there, and it's
And
gonna
that's.
draw 40 slots. Save. Save.
5 minutes. Sure.
Last call.
For one thing,
Things interesting. I used to say. Have the fingers go. Round.
Okie dokie. What are you seeing here, doctor?
Giant butthead nebula.
Careful where you point that.
Yes.
M2000.
M2000.
No, it's not.
That's not gonna look too good, is it? All right, so May is membership month. And I know that everybody who has membership that's expiring this month has gotten at least 2 emails. So I gotta have them in May, even though your membership is good through the end of June. So I can do all the paperwork, keep your reflector going. If you're not yet a member, or used to be a member, you need to become a member again. Because we're a great group, right, group?
What do you need to list again? To renew?
So for renew any money,
Okay,
and you have a choice. So 1 year is 25, 2 years is 40, and 4 years is 80. And you can have as many family members as you want, and they get their own cards. And if you give me their emails, they can have Night Sky Network accounts too.
what about until they die?
If you don't tell me that they have died, I would not know to remove them from the books.
Right, so when
So-
you die, you gotta tell her.
Okay.
Or just know you got the best deal in town, because you've got ancestors and family members who are members. What other club's gonna give you that, right? All
We
right,
take boats, we take cars, we take real estate, whatever you wanna leave us when you die.
yeah. You gonna deal with that, Mr. Treasurer?
Old funky telescopes.
Quick question, did we ever do Discover Card?
Do I have it?
No, did the club ever do Discover Card?
Not that I know of.
Good, because we had a class action suit mailing thing that went to all businesses. I could, all right, love it. He was treasurer for about 10 years.
What card you got, Visa? What other card you got, Cruise?
That's a debit card Visa. It's not a Discover.
Yeah, that was the only one we were.
All right,
So what are you taking besides cash and check? Anything else?
there's PayPal.
Okay, yeah, I'll look that one up.
And if you do PayPal, do consider a couple extra bucks if you wouldn't mind to help cover the fee for PayPal. Or if you don't, or you forget, oh well, I understand.
How about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, we are not talking. We are not talking,
PayPal probably takes about, what, $1.50 or something like that?
close to
They're
that.
like 3%.
Yeah, so if you add $2, it covers that. And then you all should have my home address too. If you send it to the PO box, or Kurt's gotta go get it, and then he takes a picture of the check, so I know you've paid it. And then it's the next meeting at least before I get it for depositing, so you'll pay for that by not seeing it show up in your bank account as a deduction for it. Yeah, all right. So if anybody wants to settle up any other way afterwards, come see me. Let's see. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our president. Since summer is coming, actually, yes. We've got a week of multiple events that we need warm bodies for. And if there are warm bodies with telescopes,
If you could lead up to shore leave, Carroll County 4-H Fair and the Winfield Carnival are all on the same week, starting July 6th through the 13th, something like that. All three of us. Ms. Brooke has, President Brooke has been good enough to volunteer to be the leader for the fair. Jeffrey K. Where's Jeffrey? There you go. He's volunteered to be the leader for the carnival. And some guy named Skip Bird, I don't know where he's at right now, but he's got his hand up, is gonna be the leader for shore leave.
and then there's also Space Vacation Bible School
Right.
during the day.
VBS during the day, okay. Is it on the calendar?
I am pulling it up.
Okay. Stuff like VBS, and for any of you guys who are booking the programs and putting them on the calendar, like Sykesville Middle School, VBS, anything that's, we're doing a program for somebody else that's not open to the public. There's a button down there when you submit the, you get ready to put it on there, it's private club members only. So they are, means only club members will see it on their calendar. General public and everybody else will not see that event.
So this
I
is
had
a
discussion
good,
the other day because somebody said, well, we want to do a rain event on a certain day. And I said, sorry, there's a program that day. Well, it doesn't show on your calendar. I said, because it's a private program.
Oh,
They
and
go,
we're,
oh, okay.
we're also re-entering Charlotte's class.
Yay.
they have a nature night, which is sadly, the same night as the planetarium show, not next month, but the month after. And I will be doing that one.
You talked to Chris about all that, you know, about all this.
I did, and I've connected with the naturalist of the art.
And she needs lithos because the naturalist,
I have.
you have some? Okay, good.
But yeah, just let me know, I'll leave you a box outside, so don't worry, I'll bring them with. I still have a whole bunch.
And if you're new, although I don't think we have a ton of newbies here, you don't need to be completely steeped in this to be a volunteer and be excited about stars with kids. So do it. We need you.
Yeah, unfortunately, the powers that be put everything all on it, like I said, the same. And I'll send out to you the office for the kid. We buy one, if it's 500-600, we print the 500. The same size we got, 10 by 20, yeah. You got one in the garage? I got 2 10 by 10. Are they pop-up kind or are they the 10 times the size? Pop-up size. We need to buy it, so we gotta use our scopes and stuff.
All the pop-ups.
Well, they could have size, but yeah, I would use them for 95. And then, so that's July. Shortly will be Lancaster, indoor, outdoor, depending on the weather. So if you like aliens, and actually that will be one of the guest stars, David Hewitt, I think it is. Rodney from Stargate. Was last there in 2005. I have pictures of him with my 3 kids, and they were 6, 9, 12 maybe. And so I asked them if they want to come back up and recreate the picture. Now they're 6, 9, 6, 7.
Skip. What are you cosplaying?
What?
What are you cosplaying? You're going to shore leave. You can't go there without a cosplay.
Oh, I go there as a Westminster astronomy guy.
Oh, man, that's a good costume for
Science
you.
and science fiction.
You've got costume for Westminster astronomy guy.
Yep. We do all of that.
We will start working on graphic.
Oh, it's already done. I get it from Lori, but she's not using it.
And if
Oh, wait,
you're,
that's out.
if you're
Oh, that's so
interested in the
disturbing.
planetarium show, talk to Al. Or Chris, or I guess me.
Will you go back to June real quick?
Time machine, huh?
Yeah, time machine. All right, so starting, June's not showing up, but Eric Smallwood on the first Saturday of the month is doing, Cunningham Falls. So he's doing programs there 2 to 5 and then 9 o'clock on the dam. If you'd like to help, just contact him.
And you get in free.
Yeah, you get it free. And if you let us know in advance, we have a campsite you can use Friday and Saturday night if you want, and that's free also. Members observing Juneteenth, Milkhouse Star Party, Social Life. I don't see the, Stockton Creek.
Oh, wait, there is one for June, right?
There's not one?
Yeah, not, yeah.
Ms. Marcus?
Yeah, we did mainly because of late sunset and everything. We decided to skip June. That was the only exception, but
So June, July, and August, we're not having one because it sunsets late?
we will still have some in July and August, we skip June.
Okay.
Set this up, right, so still sent.
Whatever you guys want to do. And that's about it, except for the meeting. Oh, the picnic. Anybody, we got any dates on the picnic yet?
We do.
Well, we talked
What
about
was-
it. You didn't
what
say
was
whether or
the
not
date?
you were going to make an
August.
executive decision.
Oh,
So now it's a bullhorn.
grown up.
If I gotta do it, you gotta do it.
That's right, August. The
I
first
think
or the 29th? Which one do you want? I see the little circles, but which one?
it's a Tuesday?
It's a Sunday.
I was gonna, what are
One
you
and
talking?
29.
Oh, that, I'm on the wrong
Not
one.
this,
Yeah.
this is Saturday.
I think we were talking about, it was the first or the
29th or the 22nd?
29.
I think we were.
We're all gonna be gone on the 22nd.
Gotcha. How about the 1st? We're okay with August 1st for our exciting picnic with Tri-State?
Any care? Anybody care?
I'll check and see if we can have the pavilion.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, be dependent on the pavilion. I
Yep,
guess
we'll
we
get it
can.
now. Give them both dates, see which one works.
Okay, so that was the only other thing there.
Alright, that's gonna be July 1st.
Huh?
August.
August.
August 1st, yeah. Alright.
And the last one is Almost Seven Star Party is from the 10th through the 16th. New expanded because it's the middle of the week. And the Experimental Learning Center is actually in charge of it now, so they expanded out so they can get more people and more money. It still only has 250 people, so when it pops up for sign up, if you don't already have it on it, right, Al?
Sells out.
Yep, that first day,
Which one are you talking about?
Almost Seven Star Party, which is
Oh, okay.
August 10th through the 16th.
Which reminds me, we have in August, our members observing weekend, the new moon weekend, the 14th through 16th. We almost didn't get that weekend because Dawn's having a fundraiser kind of thing for the raptors. They're trying to raise funds for a habitat or something here for the raptors. And they said, well, maybe since we'll have members who want to be here anyway, we open up the observatory and folks can see what it's about. They're always curious. So she agreed to that to give us the weekend. I'm going to be away because I'm going to be at Alcon.
Is that what you call a weekend with Al?
Alcon, as opposed to Al Pro.
Oh, okay.
So we can with
But not
Al with a whole
Alpo.
bunch of other.
Alpo?
Yeah. So we'll need a volunteer to do that one. Basically, if you're going to be here anyway and you're observatory trained, that would be fantastic. If not, just have your scopes. So just look at sharing the space for a little bit of time. They're supposed to be completely off the property by 10. And that's about the time we're into astronomical twilight because I checked.
Tag is up?
That is April 15th, not April, August 15th. It's on the
wow.
calendar as Raptors.
So are we being kicked out at 10 o'clock or can we stay?
No, we're staying. They're
Everybody
kicking the
else
raptor people out.
Oh,
See, that was the fine deal I struck is, okay, if we kind of participate, if anybody wants to meander up, can we still have our new moon weekend? And the answer was yes. So it'll probably rain, but
Yeah.
you know.
With also our last public outreach event was Sunday. Would you like to talk to us about that? Talk to them about that? Tell them what went on?
Did you all see your Night Sky Network newsletter? It comes through your email. I sent the picture anyway. So I like photojournalism, always have. So I got a picture of Skip doing his comet and then a little inset with the comet that he was sharing with the kids. So that was the Rockville Science Fair or Science Day that they do annually in Rockville at Montgomery College, one of my alma maters. It's a total hoot. If you've never done it, you're missing out.
The chef hat was a nice touch.
Comet chef hat.
With the astronomy magazine banner perfectly placed in the background.
Yeah, we should see if we can get some advertising bucks from them.
I'll leave the sales pitch to
Okay, all
you.
right, all right.
Because you're
Actually,
the salesman.
I was asking you to talk about this last Sunday. The tree.
Oh, the tree. Oh, my God.
Did you guys move it to the wrong place?
Yes.
No, we moved it. where we
So,
want to
long story short, outside of Don's control, the contractor working with the county put in this lovely maple tree at the end of the new sidewalk that goes down to the new pavilion. The same kind of tree as what's in the island that holds the observatory that blocks our western view from the observatory. So I did some very soft talking on behalf of me and not WASI, yada, yada. Ended up talking to Frank, who knows people in the county. And I should probably press pause on my record, but I'm not.
all on tape.
Yeah, exactly. And so we got permission to move it, told her we would move it, and she put a stake in the ground and told Frank where she wanted it. And by way of Frank, I got a picture of where to move it. But we got out there, 7 of us, with shovels, and I think we forgot our pickaxes, but man, we had some tools and some tarps and I had a winch I didn't have to use. We could not dig a hole in that spot.
Yeah.
So
Too many rocks.
Well, it was also compacted and it was cement, and I knew that Dawn was not working weekends anymore, so I didn't call her. So made an executive decision and put it down beside the culvert, which is stormwater management, not in it, but beside it. Turns out there's some rule about being no closer than 10 or 15 feet from it. Fell on my sword. Sorry, Dawn. So she says, well, I'll take care of it. Then I get another email and she says, okay, I couldn't get somebody to do something. I said, well, can you help us out? Is there any heavy duty equipment that can at least dig a hole and we can move it again? I want to make good on this. I said, even if I'm doing it by myself, but I did have 7 volunteers. We just couldn't dig that hole. So she's looking into that. I should hear from her by next week to move the tree. The tree was actually a lot easier to move than I thought, and we practiced some basic physics. For example, you can move these objects by rolling them as opposed to trying to lift, and to get it out of a hole, you use a lever. So we were finding all these great ways to make this a true outreach kind of a participatory project, including accounting for the friction of the root ball going across the rocky plain. So anyway, it was a hoot.
All power to Jeff, who is a digging monster. I think you dug most of that hole.
I brought a mega digging bar that was pretty helpful too. And I thought it still looks pretty nice. We even preserved the mulch, put the mulch neatly back. Had 10 gallons of water we watered it with.
And we had Brooke even singing work songs for us.
Oh, yes, yes.
Working in the coal mine.
Yes, that was one of them. Something about digging a hole and.
Chain gang.
Yeah,
gang.
chain gang, yeah.
Doesn't anybody in the club have a backhoe?
They were trying to start a collection.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst
After we
to
tried to
us.
dig the rock, I said, I'll put in $250 for a backhoe.
At least 1,500 for a backhoe, but I won't tell you how I know. But anyway, so there'll be another time. But you see, the key objective was to get it out of the line of sight of the observatory. And we met our objective. Now we got to help meet the Nature Center's objective and have it where they can.
Yeah. If it's 10 to 15 feet, you might have her go out there and measure, because all those rows of trees beside him,
I'm not going to.
they're all well within, in fact, that stops right into the trees. Trees are all right there in that.
So there is a quick backstory without going into gory details that I learned because I was reading all the notes I got in this big box when I became treasurer some 5 years ago now. My term's half up. Yes. Anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Apparently, when the observatory went in, as you can suspect, anytime you get a group of people together, there's going to be some conflict. And there was. And it's really important, since we have a memorandum of understanding with the county, to use the observatory space, which is a lot of Frank's family's estate money went to it in honor of his father. We're in a symbiotic relationship. It is absolutely critical that we remain in a good relationship. And there is no reason to not be in a very good relationship. Did I mention good relationship?
That's why I don't talk
with the county. So we preserve it like crazy. It is a small part of the reason why when you're requesting observatory time or the property, it's going through Jeff and I. There's no way she could know who 180 people are to verify you're actually a member. That's why you don't go direct. But it's critical, since we are in that relationship, that we be good partners. And so I'll defend that till my last day on the rolls.
So the tree's in the ground right now, yes?
Yes, it is. And it just got watered again.
Okay.
Rain.
Rain.
Naturally.
So if anybody has a backhoe and they want to use it one day, just let us know.
Yeah, we'll tell you where the original steak was. Oh, and everybody who volunteered did get fed. We did go for pizza
Yes, we did.
on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
We won't tell you how many places we had to stop by
Yeah,
to find
we
it
won't
was
tell.
either open or could take us, but we managed
Yeah.
without losing anybody in our caravan.
Couple of famished people, but they
Try
still.
not to do it on Father's Day next time.
Well, you know,
We might just do it. Might just do it. All right, so the last one there was the picnic. Almost Heaven Star Party, we warned about that, and then that's about it. Everything else should be up there and running. Will you jump to?
I think there's something happening on 13th as well. We're just not getting any of it.
Is there anybody here who's planning to go to the Almost Heaven?
I'm gonna get,
I do. Gary hasn't been there for a while, but
I just,
I mean,
put myself on there.
right, Stella Saints the same weekend, so I go to Almost Heaven, and he goes to Stella Saints.
Oh.
But
and we
it's
went to
been-
that Winter Star Party.
went to this one here.
No, you went to the one in 2026,
Yeah, what one is this?
2025.
Okay, yeah,
You must have
okay.
gotten a discount shirt.
That young man down there. I got them all.
That's
So-
the good one.
Yep. Yeah, so it's fine. That was it. Almost Heaven Star Party is very good. You should go to it. It's very dark sky sight. Great food, programs, people, stuff along those lines. There's stuff to do. They've got everything from the Cass Railroad to caving and canoeing and all kinds of other stuff that can be done during the day. Lots of good guest speakers. Alan, you've been there several times.
A lot of times, haven't been recently,
Yeah.
and I don't know what they're doing as they expand it to a week, it's normally been like 4 days.
Yeah, 4 days a weekend, yeah.
But it's camping.
Yeah, it's camping. Yep. Yeah, but they have bathrooms and everything else. Camping with a cafeteria, that's what I call it.
Two big yurts now. They put them-
Yeah, they built the second one up, which is the everything. Yeah, it's really nice. I recommend going. Been volunteering since Gary made me go one time for work, and then haven't looked back since. Thank you.
It's a lot of fun. Skip, have you been contacted by the Rockville Observatory Park people? Have they,
Latitude Observatory?
the Latitude Observatory,
Yeah, about what?
about supporting them again this season?
Yeah. She hasn't sent me a new one yet, but Karen Waddy's. Guess who
Is
you?
it on the calendar? I didn't.
I don't think they've sent me the new dates yet.
Okay.
Cause they give us a donation, so I gotta do some paperwork for them. But other than that, yeah, that's really good to do that one. But they also do a couple of other ones, but they haven't been real.
Yeah, I thought they were starting up again in April.
Yeah.
Maybe they will.
Well, the monthly ones there are, but our program is usually in August or September, something like that. Huh? Yeah, but I don't see it up there, so I haven't been, she hasn't sent me an email yet. Although usually in April, May, something like that, I send out all the emails to all the places and saying, hey, what's going on? But I did that in January and found out, that's why I found everything's the same week. Moving on, yeah.
So, Jeff Burns, you just had another observatory training.
Yes, so we certified 3 people. We have a total of 5 people ready to go. Plus Christmas.
And there were a couple more people that couldn't make that one who said, when's the next one?
So we'll hold a training right before every storm party, right before every public storm. And could we go back to June? I don't think I can make June. So Chris, would you? Chris Bentley?
Yeah.
I'll have to send an email. So June 13th. I can make that one. I'll be out on vacation for the 8th. Yeah, so anybody else wants to finish up your training? Yeah, it's certified 13th.
And this weekend is members observing, and the weather forecast, if you've been watching it, is all over the map. It's like cloudy, not cloudy, cloudy, not cloudy. I don't know. I'm hoping to make it for some of that too. Anybody else got anything for the good of the order? Any people who are former members or want to be members or should be members who want to introduce yourself or say anything?
I could mention at the end of June, it's actually another reason why I don't have one. So there's a North American Sundial Society conference. I think it's the 27th, 28th, 29th that I go to. They deal with sundials in Louisville, Kentucky. So more than that too.
Jeff, you're the sunniest person I know. Yeah, sure.
All right. Welcome back, Paul. We missed you.
Thanks. Hopefully you'll see more of me. Been a rough, like, last 6 months, so.
Okay. Is it time for door prizes? Okay. Okay.
That's your tickets, kids.
I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and I will end the recording part.
That's